here we are. This is the A521 chassis Alpine 2021 Turkish Grand Prix driven by E.OCON. And per usual, I always want to point out the overall shape of the model, which for this particular model is pretty spot on. That doesn't surprise me. You know, Solido has a license for a few select Formula One cars, and obviously they want to definitely meet the standards of their competitor model makers as well. So they wanted to make sure that they had the shape right, and they definitely have it right. The other thing that you probably notice is the beauty of this paint. It is a blue, light blue, with a flake in it, and it's clear coated. And I don't see any flaws in this paint. It's absolutely stunning. It's by far some of the best paint I've seen on a Solido anyway. It's very consistent. If you notice the hub, you have the red center cap, and then you see there's blue on the other side. And that's accurate, and that is because these tires on these Formula One cars are directional. So it's a way that the pit member, whoever's changing the tires, will know which side goes on which. The scripting on the tires is very clear and concise. You can clearly see the PF0 and the Pirelli on them. It's very good. This is amazing. The tires are scrubbed. I would have expected this out of a higher end model. Not so much this, but it's there, and it looks fantastic. It is scrubbed where it should be, in other words, where the rubber actually meets the road, and it's not scrubbed where it shouldn't be. This is a fantastic detail that I would have, again, never expected out of this brand. And of course, it's like that on the rear tires as well. Very nice. The suspension bits are all there. Nothing's really missing. Something I'm probably going to bring up a few times is that what you're going to notice is that, again, all the bits are there, as you can see, but they're black. The exhaust is a silver painted piece. It doesn't look metallic. I wish it was hollow, but at least they did paint it. Let's just move on to the front. The lettering, again, very concise, nice and even, nothing is off. That's throughout the entire car, or model, I should say. Very nice. It does have all of the antennas, as it should. The colors aren't correct, but they are there. And as I mentioned, as you can see me going back and forth here, you can see the suspension components, but it's all blacked out. And the real car, it's not like that. So I like the fact that everything is included here, and there is a ton of different aero bits here, but it's just hard to capture with it all being blacked out that way. So at the top view, as you can see, all of the pertinent components for the front suspension are there. Again, everything is in black though, which is not necessarily correct, but I like the fact that they included everything. They also use this patterned or molded carbon fiber look. It reminds me of, I always call it the Birago effect, where it's a plastic piece, but there are small lines just cut in to give it the appearance of carbon fiber. You can especially see it up here. And it looks really good. It's not accurate to the real thing, but I think it looks good. You can see more of this lower under tray. which again has that same effect. The scrub tires I was referring to. If I was going to say the highlight would be these tires. Those look stunning. I just like the way they look. They look very realistic, which is obviously what you want out of a model. The helmet, as I mentioned, is very colorful, very detailed. We focus in a little bit more on that. It's nice and colorful. Has all the right colors to it. If we move this up, you can see the ALPINE print there. Moving forward, you have the steering wheel with all its controls. And look at that, they even included the print that goes around the halo. And again, very readable, very legible. Now the driver in the car with the seat belts, all this is molded, which is perfectly fine. There's no issues there. But the one thing I really can appreciate about this particular model is the paint. It is a very good paint job. And as I said before, this is the first time that I've had a Solido Formula 1 car. And if all the Formula 1 cars are like this, then good job. You'd almost, well, you'd really want them to do this with their other cars, because they are not like that. The paint is not as concise. The 2021 ALPINE A521 chassis, Turkish Grand Prix winner Esteban Ocon. A few months ago, I did a review on the McLaren F1 GTR by Solido. And in that review, I said this was a decent model for what it is. You're getting what you pay for. That model is under $100. It makes great shelf presence. Shelf presence meaning that it's sitting on the shelf, it looks really great. It's until you actually take it off that shelf and start opening up the parts and start looking at it that you start seeing the flaws in the model. One of the major flaws in that particular model was the paint. The paint was uneven. There was some overspray on certain parts, and where there's edges where the paint is supposedly in, it was always uneven. With this model that I reviewed today, you don't have any of those issues. The paint is laid out perfectly. There's no paint rash, and it's clear coated very evenly. Also, all of the aero bits and suspension bits are there, every one of them. The downside is that all of the suspension bits and aero bits are all black. That is not true to the real thing. To make it even more difficult, it's glossy. So if you're trying to appreciate the bits and pieces, especially if you have it under a light, it's very hard to see them because of that reflection. So my criticism would be, if they're going to make everything black, and I'm very sure it was a cost-cutting measure, I think they should have used a flat black. I think that would have looked a lot better as far as if you wanted to capture all those details. Now, a higher end model, say like a Spark, would have those details. I would know this because I actually did review a Spark model. And in that model, as you can see, it does have all the different textures and colors. Where the parts are metal, you see gray or silver, which is the metal parts. Where it's supposed to be black, it's black, but those blacks aren't all the same color. They're different textures for the different parts. So it's mimicking the actual real car the way it should be. The other thing you may notice too is the paint. The actual car, and you know this if you watch Formula 1, the actual car is more of a satin black, not a glossy black. So even though the paint on the Solido is really good, it's inaccurate. It's supposed to be a flat black. The other thing you may notice is that as good as the print and the details was on the Solido, they look better and more crisp on the Spark model. But the one thing you definitely have to take in consideration is that that Spark model is over double the cost of that Solido.
So it goes back to that saying, you get what you pay for. If you never saw that Spark model, you would still probably believe that you have one of the greatest F1 models out there because it looks really good, and it does. So if you're somebody who's on a budget who wants a really exceptional, great model, the Solido is the way to go. No, it's not accurate, but it looks fantastic and it's very acceptable. It has great shelf presence and it looks good if you pick it up and observe the parts. You just have to squint a little bit more from that shiny black reflection. Please like and subscribe. That is the best way that I'm going to know that you're enjoying these videos. That's what motivates me to make more of them. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time.